All right, welcome to the next edition of Just About Boxing Jab University. Today we're talking coach to coach. Jab University is brought to you by iBuild Texas. Check out our sister podcast, Jimmy's World. Both shows available on all podcast platforms. Today's guest is Coach Edwin Rosario. What's up, Coach?
What's going on, Terry? How you been?
Man, I've been.
So good.
Yeah, so you out in Jersey now, South Jersey?
Yeah, I'm out down in South Jersey, about a few minutes from Philadelphia.
All right, so Camden is where you at
Yeah, in the neighborhood.
in the
Southern,
neighborhood?
yeah, yeah,
And so you and your brother got a new gym, New Legends Boxing.
yeah,
Tell me
yeah.
about
It's
how
open.
y'all got that going.
Well, I mean, it came together because I moved down here. Of course, we're all in the passes together for quite a bit, and then the opportunity came where, for me to move back down here. Little did I know that a pandemic was about to start, but you know, it is what it is. We a few months after the pandemic happened, we decided that we wanted to start a gym anyway. So Nick found a place, and then we little by little we built it up in a month. We started with basic, just a ring and heavy bags, and then people started trickling in. Of course, we couldn't compete for a little while, but about 6 months of training, and now we're starting to pick it up little by little. Professionals were hanging in there fighting on. It was really limited fighting on TV here and there, but we got it in. And now that the pandemic is starting to lift a little bit, a lot of stuff is starting to open up. A lot of shows, a lot of cards are being planned, so we're ready.
Yeah, it must feel good to be back home away from the desert. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, you and your brother are both trainers, both work with some high profile names. You're working with Antonio Escalante, and your brother was working with Tevin Farmer and some others. You got a little brother that's a professional boxer too. Um, you ever notice any difference between the two boxing scenes when you was out in Texas versus now you back in the East Coast?
yeah. I mean, of course, when we're over there in Texas, we use the mountains and the canyons and all that stuff like that. And we alternated between sparring and a lot of strength and conditioning and stuff like that. Some of the trainers over here, when the gyms I've been in, there's been more, a lot more attention to pad work and bag work and floor work and stuff like that. And they're more hands-on, stylistically detailed more than it is a physical workload like we would do you know. And in California, there was a little bit more like that too. You see a lot of people doing a lot more strength and conditioning, body like plyometric work and stuff like that. And he has sparring and bag work, but over here it's more, they it's more detailed. Like they want you to be more, hands up, chin down, elbows in. A lot more technical side over here on this side, and physically more over there on that side.
And you guys work with other coaches too. Cause I know your brother. They when they work with Farmer, they work as a team. I think it's Coach Anthony and a
Yeah,
couple others. And then I've seen the team aspect here too. When I think Crawford came to camp, he's got like three coaches. It's Red, it's Bomac. I think Bomac's the head coach. Red's there, and then I keep forgetting his name. Little Hispanic guy. How's it? Have you noticed a difference in working with teams like that, or how's that work?
yeah. It just depends on the actual fighter because, and I'm working with Tevin Farmer. He had Coach Anthony, Rasheem Jefferson, Chino Rivas, of course my brother, and then to add another, me to the mix of that. I guess it was. I don't know. I came into a weird situation because he had just came off a loss to JoJo Diaz, but they're still trying to keep that aspect of it. It's molded and changed a little bit, and some people left the scene. Other people are sticking around, but of course, Tevin Farmer, he's you know, this business side of the boxing is I guess we're trying to play the waiting game and see what happens with his career and where he's going next. But he's still in the gym working and stuff like that. But it's a aspect that I've had a little taste of, but not trainers like that. So everybody's, I guess, tries to put in their little part. And then you have other guys that are prospects like Steven Ortiz. You won't have as many people, as many trainers with him. Maybe like just, three of us rather than five people. So it just, depends on the guys.
And when you got a team that big, is communication important? Do you guys talk? Like, I worked on this today, you know, do what you
Yeah,
do with it.
it's just a game plan. Like, you know, I guess everybody's, it's like a round table, and everybody kind of like pulls and picks at different things. Like, well, we should work on this a little bit, work on that a little bit. Of course, I mean, I haven't been in camp with them per se yet. We've worked, but it's not in a camp style where now we have an opponent in front of us, to make an adjustments for. So right now it's just, you know, poking and prodding of seeing how everything works for me.
And when you're in a camp style, you guys, I think now you got the benefit of a lot of film. Um,
Yeah,
is film a big part of camp for you? Do you make the fighter watch film, or is it just you watching film?
yeah. I mean, I do most of the watching, like when I was working with Escalante and stuff like that. I did a lot of film work because I want to be, I guess, work on a focus of things. Like if the guy's dropping his left hand a lot, I want to make sure I take advantage of that, in an exchange. Or if the guy's, working in the pocket a lot, I want to take advantage of that situation and work on that. So I try to pick and poke at the holes of the other fighters and then focus on that for camp.
And so when you're watching film, say you breaking down film, do you do it round by round? Do you watch the whole film once and then go back and pick out the rounds, or you just kind of look at the obvious? How you break down
Yeah,
film?
I think that when I look at film, I break it down by what he does well, and then I watch the fight and pick at what he does well. Then I watch it again and figure out where it's falter at, and pick at the holes there. Then I watch it again and then watch the other guy to see where he had took advantage of those situations. So that's basically how I watch film. It's a little layers I like to pick and poke at.
And so you work with these high level fighters, you work these mid level fighters, you work with amateurs, because I've worked in the corner with you with amateurs and pros, or like Rodarte twins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is there a big difference in how you run training between an amateur, whether it be an elite level fighter, and a pro?
Yeah, I mean, when you work with amateurs, you have to baby uh, spoon their baby feet, but feed them like little bits and pieces. But you can't get into a whole lot of how to set things up because they won't understand that level. All you can kind of do is, take advantage of, getting them the best basic possible form they can get, like hands up, stuff like that. Get them in good condition. Like there's guys who will go in there with just the 1-2 basically, and I've started guys if they had a real good 1-2 and had good defense. I felt like that was good enough, to start. Because they're not getting in there with Manny Pacquiao, so there's no need to get them to do a whole lot of different things. But if they can get there and defend themselves and then use that 1-2 effectively, we can build from there. I like to build them up, if they can defend themselves. So the defense is a big part of it when you're training amateurs. And when you're training professionals, it's a different story because now you don't know what kind of opponent you're coming in. So if it was a high level guy, now you got to look out. This guy has a number of wins that you have to break down. He has a number of losses that you have to break down. So now, there's a lot more levels to it than it is when you're training amateurs.
And
So
then
amateurs, not, yeah.
so when you working with these, I've seen you with different types of fighter. Escalante is one type of fighter, Hispanic fighter, in your face, body puncher. Now you're in there with some farmer, and most of these East Coast guys a little bit more skilled or setting traps. You know,
Right.
what do you look for in a fighter to take them to the next level? Because you did have Escalante at number one in the world at one point in time. Now you're working with a former world champion. Like what are you looking for? Is it a physical attribute? Is it mental fortitude? Is it high ring IQ? What are you looking for, or do you just take whatever he's good at and try to work with what you got?
I think that's what you hit the head on the nail on the head with that last part because Tevin Farmer, he's a slick counter puncher, and it's like and I'm not to pick and poke at Austin Trout, but he was kind of similar style. And then when he got in there with Laura, for some reason, he wanted to come forward and try to, instead of being the counterpuncher that he is, he starts coming forward and he's getting picked and poked apart. So, if I was, working with Farmer, I just told him he's got to do what you normally do, just at the highest level that you can do it. So that wouldn't really change what he was doing. Just try to make it the best he can be. So, working from the center of the ring, moving around, moving his head, getting guys to come in, pick him apart, step out. Just basically the best boxer he can be. He's got some pop. I mean, a lot of people don't know that if I can teach him how to sit on those punches and then still maintain that boxing ability, that's another level he can step up to.
And then so when you're game planning for, we don't know what Farmer has coming up next, or when you were working with Escalante and those guys, when you're game planning, is your game plan round by round? I know some people talk about dropping rounds as just part of a game plan. Is it the big picture? Or like, how do you game plan for a fight?
I think that's a part of the big picture. I think is what it is. I mean, you could win round by round, but if you can't have a start and an end point, I don't think you get probably get lost at some point from here to there. So I mean, like when we fought Cornelius Locke, I noticed that he moved around a lot, and he was just a strict boxer, so he was going to use his legs for as long as you could let him. So I wanted to hit the body early, so that way we can kind of, take those legs away from him, and then, start banging him upstairs a little later in the fight. So Locke still moved around a little bit to his credit, but we dropped him about 4 or 5 times in between on track of that. So you know, and I tried to do the same thing when we fought Roman because he was just a come in your face fighter. So I wanted Tony to bang to the body so we can kind of take some of that power away from him so that he's not dangerous to the whole fight. And then when you go back and watch the film, you feel like he didn't go enough, but he did go to the body a lot, which I think kind of set up shots to his head later on. But we try to wear him down. I guess it's just fight. It's fight by fight, fighter by fighter, opponent by opponent, because everybody comes different. You can't always have the same game plan for the next guy. Cause everybody has their um, good aspects and bad aspects.
And so, talking about Escalante and Mickey Roman, Escalante wins the fight. Both careers take two different turns. You know what I mean? Career trajectory. Um, what leads to something like that? One goes one way, one goes the other way. Even though one of them won that fight, the other one clearly lost that fight. What
Yeah.
leads to something like that where this guy goes on to beat Salido and this one becomes like a perennial opponent?
Yeah, a lot of people they don't realize how far Roman goes back. Like he's still ranked in the top 10, I believe. Like until I don't know if right to this day, but not 6 months to a year ago, he's still ranked in the top three, top four guys. So as far as the trajectory in their careers, I think it was just a disconnect somewhere at some point where there was a manager that came in and he didn't really have a grasp on where our career was at the moment and where we wanted to go. So uh, rather than take a few more fights to get where we wanted to go, we started fighting guys that were difficult. And Roman was the beginning of that because I didn't want to fight Roman at the time because, you know, I knew what kind of caliber fighter Roman was. And for the where we were in the career and the money he was making, I felt like it really wasn't worth that type of that type of fight that it turned out to be, because I already knew what kind of fight it was going to be, and I didn't want that at that point in the career. But it's just the manager, and then him wanting to have another trainer come in, which I respect Louis Burke when he came in to handle that, but it's got to be a two-way street between trainer and fighter. And Tony wasn't really meeting that expectation that Louis Burke asked of him, so it really wasn't a good matchup on Tony's side. And Louis Burke probably didn't feel like that at the moment, but behind the scenes, it was, real Tony wasn't really satisfied with that, so he really didn't give his best effort. I felt going into those fights, and I came in and tried to respect Louis Burke as much as I could. I mean, and do what he asked of me as a part of that team concept we were talking about earlier. But when the fighter doesn't really want to give 100% effort on what the game plan is, of course you're gonna have a bad result. So I don't feel like he gave 100% in those camps where, after the Roman fight where his career took a turn. Because he not only did he go to Louis Burke, but he also went to Ronnie Shields, which that wasn't a good fit for him either. So it was just, it kind of got lost in the sauce, basically. He didn't
Yeah.
know what his identity was anymore, you know. So he
So
was a first knockout when he went to train with Ronnie Shields. He got
yeah,
knocked
he
out in the
did
first.
lose. Yeah, right away. So you said new manager came in, had an idea of where he wanted to go, but kind of had no idea where you guys were at as a team, and where you guys wanted to go.
Right.
Is it traditional? Oh, hold on, my mic. Is it traditional for the manager to have communication with the trainer, or is the manager just talking directly to the fighter? How
Yeah.
is that working out?
I think I tried to have a communication when the manager came in, because um, as a trainer, your job is to you know not to look for matches, but to do the best with the match that you have. So until that manager came in, I was the manager, so I call. They tell me the opponent, and we had the option to say no or yes. So a lot of times we got a decent opponent, but at the time when this manager came in, it was like, all right, well, we're gonna go after this guy. I'm like, man, they'll have a list for you. I had emails and phone calls where I'm trying to get them to move some more in a different direction, but by that time it was kind of like I took a back seat to that decision making process, and just you know did train the best I could, especially for the Rahman fight.
All right, so we're gonna talk about camp camp life now. So when you're planning a camp, how long do you like to have a camp for?
Like it depends. Like I try to break it down according to how long we're gonna. Like if it's a 4 round fight, or I train for like 6 or 8 rounds. So then I'd have like 4 or 6 weeks, and then if like 10 and 12, I want to have at least 8 weeks, 9 weeks to be able to reach a crescendo, or like a point that we can start tapering off at the end a little bit. So
And
everything has to be directed at a goal. So
when you're running a camp, say you periodize a camp,
mhm.
is it the first few weeks we're just conditioning or just working on skills? The last few weeks we're working on game plan. Like, how do you
Yes.
start and how do you end the camp? Where sparring fit into all that?
So right now, I just started a camp with two 4 round fighters. One's making his pro debut, another's 0-2. So I'm trying to introduce him in camp the way that I do it, rather than you know some of the camps that I've seen here, where it's just kind of day in day out, same routine over and over again. Jump rope, shadow box, hit the bag, hit the mitts. Jump rope, shadow box, hit the bag, hit the mitts. So what I do is the first, if I do like right now I'm doing a 4 round, so I'm trying to introduce them into a 6 week camp. So the first week and a half, we're just doing a little bit of boxing, maybe like 4 rounds in the bag, 4 rounds in the mitts, two on the double end bag, and then we'll get into the strength. The bulk of the day is going to be strength and condition. So do that for about a week and a half, and then start taking away the strength and condition, shrinking it down, and doing more boxing. So the following week we'll be moving up to 6 rounds, and then on the bags and the mitts and stuff like that, and then doing a small strength and conditioning at the end. So I like to get my boxing in first. That way everything is fresh. They feel their bodies, keep their chin tucked in, and elbows in, and then that way when they get into doing their physical work, it's just concentrated on that. So if I feel like if you do it beforehand, and by the time you do boxing at the end, it's like sluggish. You're not gonna get the most out of how you're supposed to feel when you're moving around and stuff like that. So you know, uh, it's getting pretty good. They seem motivated, and and then get introduce sparring like in the third week or second and a half week, and build up. Starting at 4 rounds, and then have like a strength and conditioning built into the sparring. So when it starts, getting more into boxing, the strength and conditioning will disappear a little bit. Take it away little by little until we get to the rounds that we need to work, and then start tapering off of that.
And what is your feel on these, I guess, guns for hire as strength and conditioning coaches? I know what about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, they came in to the forefront. You had Alex Ariza, and then you had, I keep calling Trevor Ariza, and everybody's like, talking about the basketball player. No, Alex Ariza. Then you had they got the guy Memo, then you got Victor
Yeah,
Conti, then you got, well, Mackie Shieldstone was probably around before all of
yeah,
them.
Roy
What,
Jones and all those guys. Yeah,
yeah, like what is your feel on some of these strength and conditioning? You got a lot of lesser known ones too, but what is your feel on these guys?
think like of they can if they've been around the sport long enough to understand what is needed to be at the top of their game, then they can build on top of that. But I think a lot of these guys, they probably go to school, get a look at what boxing is about, but they don't understand like in a 12-round fight, you have to be able to be as just as strong and just as conditioned in the last few rounds than you are at the beginning of the round. So that's it's an ebb and flow in the training that's supposed to transfer over to the ebb and flow in a fight. So you got these guys that come in and they're doing a lot of heavy lifting and bulking these guys up. Like Roy Jones when he was a Mackie Shieldstone, he was trying to go up. He put a lot of weight on, which he was able to manage that at a heavyweight. But then when he came back down, it was like all that natural muscle that he had was gone, and he was just left with like just his broke down muscles, just losing weight, and then his physicality kind of disappeared with it. And then you know I think if they can transition well into understanding what boxing is about, what boxing training is, and not have something separate, then it'll probably work all right. But some of these guys haven't got to understanding it.
And so when say a guy comes to you and says, "Hey coach, I want you to train me." What is the most important attribute that guy's supposed to have? Is it hard? Is it just what he has in here? Is it what I like to call coachability, um, physicality? Like, what is like the best attribute to just show up with? Say he ain't got no fights or anything like that. Just what is the best attribute for the boxer to just show up with?
I think just the determination. Like somebody comes in there, they don't have any athletic ability, they don't necessarily have an understanding of the sport. But if they come in with like a sponge, like just teach me whatever it is that you want to teach me today, and then run with it, and then give 100%, determination to get to where they need to get to. I think that's the most important thing. our guys are coming. They've never seen anybody get punched in the face before, but they want to, they want to come into the gym and say, "Oh, I want to do that." And they come in there and they hit the bag, and day in and day out. You start working with them a little bit. They show up every day. You know, I can not want to show them something. You know, I think those guys are the best. They come in and they just, want to give it 100%.
So let's dig into your experience coaching. What point, like at a fight, you guys won, or you just in a gym one day and you be like, man, I want to coach.
I think I didn't when I first started, I was working with I was in the army, so they had like these brigade smokers where they got a couple guys together and they would put them together in a boxing ring, USA sanctioned. So I think the first time that I realized that I wanted to coach was because I couldn't compete myself. I already had you couldn't have more than 5 or 6 fights to compete at that level, and so I had already had more than that. So I said, oh, I want to stick around and see if I can help these guys a little bit. So, but I really didn't have like I guess a need to coach at the moment. And then I guess I was just going through the motion, and then there was this one kid, and he was getting ready to go and compete, and I'd been working with him a little bit, and I saw the other guy come in, and the little short, stocky guy is banging his gloves together. So I already knew he wasn't going to come in and start wailing on my guy. So I told him, look, I said, this guy's going to come in. He's going to throw about 5 or 6 punches, and then he's going to step back and take a breath. So when he steps back, he fires a 1-2 down the middle, follow him out. So at clockwork, that guy came in and just started, throwing about a million hooks. And then he got tired, so he took a step back, and boom, boom, this guy did exactly what I said. Just a simple 1-2, and put the guy down. So and then that I didn't know was. I mean, I had a inkling that it was going to happen like that, but when it happened exactly like I thought it was going to happen, I said, "Wait a minute." I said exactly like I thought it was going to happen, but maybe I'm supposed to be doing this. So, I started continuing there, working with soldiers, and then I started working with amateurs, and then eventually professionals.
And then when you got to the pros, and was it just a different ball game? Like, oh man, this they getting paid for this. We got to get this one right.
Oh yeah, I mean when I first stepped into a pro ring as a coach, I competed as an amateur. You take punches and stuff like that. But when you step into a pro ring, it's a little different feel. Because now it's more attention. It's like more a little more anxiety, I guess, because everything is smaller gloves, there's no headgear, and it's definitely a different feeling, more eerie. Like, I hope this guy does well, and that feeling of the small gloves. I think that there's just no feeling like it when you step in that pro. You feel these guys' gloves and they're taping up and everything like that. Everybody's adrenaline's running. When you're amateur, it's running a little bit, but not like the pros. It's a different feeling.
And what fight in your coaching career were you like, man, this fight is hard?
I think, man, I think the Mickey Roman fight was difficult because I already knew what it was gonna be like, and then to have to go through it, it was surreal. You're like at the end of the fight, you could tell it was it took a lot out of Tony because it was just such a hard battle. I think it was even probably nominated for like fight of the year. So I mean, it was training for that fight was really difficult because I didn't have a lot of top-notch sparring partners at the time, which is why one of the reasons why I didn't want to take a fight like that because I knew the level of sparring that I had for preparation for that fight. So Tony wasn't world champion yet, where he can fly people in. The manager wasn't really willing to help. So I only had I think Saul forget his last name, but yeah,
Oh, you talking
Morales
about the
had.
kid from Durango, right?
I had him from Durango. He would come in. He had like 6 professional fights, and then the other 2 guys that I had were amateurs. So I had to uh, do the best with what I could. So I would put the amateurs first, and then put the pro guy at the end. So that way, we'd get that hard work at the end while he was a little tired, and I had to think a little bit more at the end rather than okay, well I got the hard guy out of the way, so I can just play with these guys in the beginning. So that worked to a degree. We won every round, and looked like we won every round. And then the Roman fight, but if I feel like if I would have had better sparring for that fight, then it would have been a different story. But I
And
did the best I could with what I had.
like when you're bringing in sparring partners, say you couldn't fly anybody in, does just being in a certain location, like you guys are in like a congested area with Philly's down the road, is it
Yeah,
easier that way where we were at in far west Texas, where either nobody's real close or the people that are real close are just way different sizes or experience levels? Is
yeah. You remember we had to drive 4 hours to Albuquerque to get a few rounds of sparring.
yeah.
And here, then I did like even in the pandemic, I still had guys from Philly, North Jersey, Delaware, uh, to be able to reach out and just grab at random, at will, just some reaching out to people to come in and get as much experience as you want, or as many rounds as you want. Basically, I mean it's a different world over here. So when I came here, when I'm here now, I'm like I want to compete as much as possible. I want to take these guys, amateur and professional, and just get on every card that I can get on because I didn't get that. When we were in Texas, we had to make and do what we had.
Yeah, like we're living in El Paso. My brother who lives in Memphis was like, "Hey, do I need a passport?" I'm like, "No, I still live in America." But and a lot of people don't realize that El Paso is 12-hour drive from Houston, 10 from Dallas, 9 from San Antonio. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah,
Albuquerque is the closest major city to where we were at, which they do
yeah,
got a lot of great professionals up there in Albuquerque. It's the actual boxing city in the whole area. So now that you're out on the East Coast, you got your gym up and running. What's your plans for like the immediate future? You got a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, or you just taking it day by day?
right now with the pandemic going on, I'm just taking it as it comes. 'Cause, I'm trying to see like I mean, because I haven't been here for 25 years, and boxing wise, I've only little bits and pieces from when I would come and visit when my little brother would fight. So now that I'm here, I have to do the same thing in El Paso here that I did in El Paso. Just making contacts, meeting people, trying to understand like you know where the work is at, where the promoters down here, develop a relationship with them. Over there in El Paso, I had Wayne Harrison who I would reach out all the time, and he would find me fights on different cards. And then I had Robert Diaz and the Golden Boy. When Tony was signed, they would give me slots, to put my lesser experienced guys on. So it's just translated from that over here is going to be, I guess, the challenge, trying to feel out everything here.
And so you're the oldest of the Rosario brothers,
Yeah.
and your brother Nick is a trainer too, and a damn good one. Do you find yourself watching him like, man, I'm still there?
Yeah. Yeah, he's got his little style, and I see like little things that he does, and I've have comments, still this, still that. But most of the time I try to give him his space, let him work with his guys. That way, he doesn't feel like I'm too overbearing on him or, trying to critique him, you know, too much. Just let him do his thing.
He ever told you, man, just back up off me?
Yeah, yeah. Bro, first couple weeks there, he says, "They'll say I'm a professional ball buster, but being in the military, you develop. That's just comes with the territory, right?"
Yeah, just leave me alone, man. And that's funny because I'm pretty sure all my siblings are like, man, just shut up. You don't know
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
And so you got amateurs, you got pros,
yeah.
and with your amateurs, you are you guys attending these tournaments, or you're just not yet, or what's going on there?
I think we're trying to get to these tournaments. Like I have a kid who won the Sugar Burt boxing tournament last year, so he's trying to get around to competing. After the pandemic and everything's opened up, but uh, we're just trying to get in there. But I think with the JOs coming up, like or the Sugar Burt boxing, I think one was in Georgia, and they only like limited that to people that live in Georgia. So it was like, well, that was out. So now we're trying to see if we can compete in the JOs down there. I think it's in Lubbock
Yeah, it's in
this
Lubbock
year.
this year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
hopefully.
they've added some stuff to it too, man. They're elites. There's college, youth, it's everything. So it's supposed to be big. These tournaments are big now, and you when you go to, like, say you're preparing for a tournament versus preparing for a smoker or a professional fight, is there the planning different because you're fighting several days in a row, or you choosing a weight class a little higher than you would as if you're fighting as a pro because it's easier to make the weight over an extended period? And then tell me about that process there.
I think like two of the kids that we have now, they're uh, under the weight class that they're competing at. So they're able to physically deal with these guys that are at that next weight class above. It makes it a little easier making weight than dropping down in the lower one weight class. And you have to maintain that the whole week and try to be at your top performance. So I think just preparing for that, just that fighting bigger guys and trying to maintain that level of ferocity from one day to the next. And of course, you got to mix it up because next guy the next day is not going to be the same as the first guy. So try to have as many sparring partners as you can.
And you being so heavily involved in the professional boxing, do you see where there's a correlation between amateur success and pro success? Or, like I was telling everybody, I saw this discussion on social media where some coaches were saying amateur boxing so far gone from what professional boxing is now. Do you see it that way, or is there a correlation between the two?
I think just because they tweaked the little things that they didn't realize changed so much about it. Like right now, there's the safety gloves that they have so much uh, cushion on it that a lot of these guys they're not really sitting on their punches anymore because it's more going back to a tapping style, but they're trying to, but it's not really there. So I think that's and then the timing of it is different because when you're punching with those practice gloves, the regular gloves rather than the competition gloves that they have now that are bigger, that just that little couple 3 or 4 inches and the timing of it has changed. So I see a lot more guys not necessarily sitting on a punch like a pro style, but they're kind of just tapping and trying to control. The ring generalship is good, but I don't see anybody really sitting on their punches like in a pro style.
I got a couple little kids that I see at tournaments that you should watch this. Really sit down on them. One of them's name is Nolan Huntley from Ohio. This kid's an animal. This kid's an animal. Young, yeah, he's just strong. He's just like a bulldog. I think he's gonna just be outstanding as he gets older. You know what I mean? But but yeah, I do see that too, where the generalship is kind of their focus, tapping away. There's a few guys that can really punch, but they just got like a god
Yeah,
gifted, yeah, ability to
if you have
punch it.
one punch knockout power, that it doesn't matter what kind of gloves you got on, just that
Yeah,
you're going down.
Yeah, yeah, you get them out of there. Um, yeah, I wish a lot of people, more people had that. Um, so we're in your gym now. What's a typical day, say non-camp day for a new Legends boxer?
Usually come in, stretch out, the jump on the rope, shadow box, jump on the bag, try to alternate bags, because bigger bags, you want to sit in the pocket, and the lighter bags move around a little bit more, so you want to use your range and stuff like that. Then try to work them through not just a routine, but like build discipline in them. Like, okay, well, this bag is for this because of, this situation happened. This bag is for this because this situation happened. To get them to be used to changing it up from round to round, from minute to minute, and then trying to translate that to sparring session. So we spar on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So they got every other day to try to hone their craft, and and then try to use it in sparring.
Like, and what is your feeling on mitt work? Like, I believe it's a teaching tool, and I do the flow drill when the camera comes around because that's what people want to see. You know what I mean? And every boxer kind of wants to be popular or famous, so that's what we do it for. And other than that, it's kind of just a teaching tool. How do you feel
Yeah,
about the mitts in how it's taken off? So everybody do mitts.
yeah, everybody's doing match. Uh, like I think I try to incorporate that with just the old school style of trying to do positional, and how it feels to land certain punches and transferring weight and stuff like that. So on Mondays, I'll use the mitts just to focus on basics, and you know, on Wednesdays, I won't even have mitts. I like to use just the noodle on the bag, kind of like Canelo and his trainer are doing now. And I've learn how to get away from doing mitts every day because I would do mitts, 4 days of the week out of 6. So I think, and then Fridays, I get into that flow type of thing where I started trying to develop my own style of a version of that because I want to I guess develop a movement after, before and after. So I'm trying to develop. I've kind of got there with. I started with Tevin because and he's left-handed, so that blew my mind when I was trying to learn right-handed. But then, I ended up doing left-handed. I got that down real good. So now I'm doing right-handed, and it's becoming a little better. And I can teach that easily to the personal lessons. They pick up right away, so it's not even. The old traditional style was 1-1-2, 1-2-5. They'll run the numbers, or they'll say left, right, left, right, left. And now it's I'm trying to pick it up where they're just constantly focused on the mitts, and the position of the mitts is the what we call a combination. So I hold up one, they throw the jab. I hold up the other hand, it's a 1-2. You know, then you shift it this way, it's a 1-2 and hook. And make variations there because I think that's what Mayweather did was he would just have locked in combinations that he would just randomly mix them up. So that I kind of learned that, and then I kind of came up with my own style where it's just a flow like that, but it's more how I want it to be, and not as a slower pace, but fast.
And over the years, what have you noticed in your evolution as a coach? What have you noticed different? Either your decision making, your coaching. Me and you've been in corners before. I'm the loudest dude in the state.
Yeah,
Period. Whereas we joke around like, man, that's Whispers Rosario because he's super quiet
yeah,
and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, you ever like you just sit back and be like, man, I've come a long way from when I started.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like when I first started, I was loud because I was trying to, I feel like if you really need help, I'm gonna yell at you. If you doing well on your own, I really don't have to say much. So I just, you have guys out there that have to tell them second by second what to do, and so really the boxer's dependent on you all the time to figure out what they want to do, rather than like I say, if I have somebody that I've worked on in the gym and they know exactly what to do, what situations, I want to be able to just sit back and just hold the water bottle, and then
Easy
have
work.
them, right? Give them all the credit without, and then like I think it was the Cornelius Lock fight. Everybody was, because I did have to help him a little bit, to keep his hand, tell Tony to keep his hands up, move his head, stuff like that. Not necessarily what punches to throw because he knew what punches to throw, but on just the basic defensive side part of it, just keep him in that mentality of it's not all offense. You got to protect yourself too. So I've been on both sides of it where I've lost my voice from yelling, and then the other time where they didn't really need my help, so I really didn't have much to say.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, I'm losing my voice just walking in the door. I'm
yeah,
hype. I'm yelling. That's just my personality in general.
yeah. So,
Uh,
the beginning guys, like I had a guy fight a couple weeks ago where I was constantly screaming at him because he wasn't doing anything he was supposed to be doing. So I had to yell at him a little bit.
Now, like, you ever have a fight where the the boxer just everything clicked? You didn't have to really do much. You know what I mean? Just came in and like, man, we had a good camp because he's doing everything right.
Yeah, I think there's a fighter named Saul Palacios. I don't remember if you remember Spanky.
Yeah, I
He was
remember
one of those
Spaggy.
guys. He
Sunglasses
was one of those
inside.
guys. Yeah, he was one of those guys where you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this guy, but we'll see what happens. His first fight that he had, was like I don't know. It was weird because he didn't look like when he's training, and when he fights, it's like a different story. So I think that was one of the times where we are like, dang, everything. I didn't have to really do much. He just went to work.
Oh, he
He
does
was
listen.
yeah. He was 2-0. Didn't have to say much. But I think I think a lot of Tony's fights were decently like that, but it was always that moment where you had to be like, you got to keep your freaking hands up. It's getting hit with shots that you really shouldn't be getting hit with.
like
It's just a transition.
like in those longer fights, because Tony fought like 12, 10, 12 rounders quite often. Do
Mm-hmm.
you ever found like there's a point in a fight where focus just kind of goes away?
Yeah, it's like if everything is going well, like somewhere in the middle of that where he gets comfortable is when you're like, okay, now you're starting to get away from what you were doing, and it's just like I forget what fight it was. I think it was um, I want to say the Jose Andres fight. He back there was a guy that he was from Chicago, and he was after he fought Tony, he started going on TV and fighting Rocky Juarez, and there was another white kid at the time who was kind of like hot for a little bit, but he never made it. But it was like that fight, he was exchanging and getting the better of it, but he was having to work real hard to get those shots. It was like you know get it got to a point where he's taking shots he's not supposed to, dropping his hands. He's landing real good, but defense goes out the window.
Yeah, sometimes he got hit quite a bit. Um, uh, and he cut pretty easy too. He was a cut man. It's a nightmare, man. Um,
Yeah, yeah. The rehydration had to do with just skin gets thin.
yeah. You ever seen like a point in a fight where you saw yourself lose focus? Like the fight is just so boring. It's like, oh, get
Yeah,
this guy out of there because I'm tired. I'm tired of watching this. Or
yeah. I think it was Saul's fight. This first fight with me that yeah, I got him a card on the Golden Boy card, and it was a 6 rounder. But for some reason, he couldn't really close the gap on this guy, and the other guy didn't want to get hit. So it was kind of like, what round is it? I don't know. But then you lose focus on the round. What round is it? And then you're like trying to figure out like, okay, well, I can't get my guy to do this, and the other guy doesn't want to participate, so you just kind of like crossed your arms and like, all right, well at least we're winning the fight, I think. But, sometimes you got to buckle down and say, okay, well how can I get this guy out of there?
you ever notice fighters respond to different stimuli? Like I got a nephew, Joey. Like, don't yell at him because he can tell you
Yeah,
you better stop yelling at me. Like,
yeah,
or some guys you've got to like yell at to get the point across.
yeah. I mean, some guys you got to tell them, yo, grab your balls, go out there and do what you're supposed to do, and buckle down. Other guys, they'll just kind of look at you sideways, like, you're like sometimes Tony didn't really respond well to that. He wanted me to calm down and talk to him normally, but like in that Mickey Roman fight, it was like it kind of got away where we're I think like the 7th or 8th round when we started taking more punches than we should have, and then so I'm screaming at him basically, and he's like telling me to calm down. He's like, calm down. It's like, just do what I ask you to do, and I'll calm down.
Hey man, chill out, dog. Just chill. We just fighting. That's all we doing. We just fighting. Yeah. Uh,
Said after the fight, he says, "You gotta calm down in the corner." I was like, "Do what I ask you." Okay, like, calm.
do you ever see that it happens that way in the gym and that's how they are in the fights where I have to yell at you in the gym to get you on task, or it just it's in the moment? Hey, you got to yell at them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all. If the guy's getting punched in the face just because he's being lazy that day, like I don't know if you remember Sepulveda. Sometimes it was a head case in sparring. It was like where he put his hands down and take punches just to take punches.
Yeah,
And
that never made any sense to me.
so I just one day I just packed my bag and walked out of the gym. I was like, you get some guys like that. Just they're hard head cases. And those guys you gotta yell at. And then you have other guys, like the Rodarte twins that were receptive. Just you didn't really have to yell at them that much. They just knew how to go about listening and executing.
And their
What to
dad
do.
had them on a tight leash too.
Oh, yeah, that was really strict.
I found it funny because I did work the Rodarte twins corner at like the state JOs or something like that,
Yeah,
and they shared everything. So one fought at
yeah,
119, the other one fought at 125, and I was just in the corner of one of them at 119. The 125 was next, and I had to tell everybody, "Hey, hold on, they got to change." He had to take off his uniform. It was the reversible, I think. He flipped it to the other color, gave it
yeah.
to his brother, took off his headgear, put it on him, and then he took his mouthpiece out of his mouth and just shoved it in his mouth. I was like,
Yeah.
ugh, let's go.
I couldn't understand that because it was not. I don't know if it was a bonding thing because this guy wasn't hurting for money at all. He's
Yeah.
a wealthy guy, had an Olympic-sized swimming pool in his backyard, but for some reason, you know, they had to share the headgear, the mouthpiece, the even the sparring partners. They like, okay, well, you could do two with one brother and then two with the other brother. I was like, just let that guy work for it, and we'll get somebody else.
Yeah, I
You
remember
know?
I took Udiel over there and Joey over there. I was like, man, how many rounds we gonna do? And are they
Yeah,
the same kid? Yeah.
yeah. But it was funny. I always tell that story because now they have their own winning gear and all that good stuff. But it was funny to watch them go through amateurs.
Yeah,
have to
they're
show.
relatively successful now. They're doing pretty good. They got decent records as pros. They moved out to California. They're doing pretty good. But yeah, that
Yeah,
always tripped me out. Like, why are they? Come on, man! Like, when
yeah,
he took
really.
it out of his mouth, and it was like, I threw up a little bit. I was like, man, that's gross. Like, what
That's
are you
funny.
doing, man? Yeah, it was so crazy, man. And
That was the only guy I've ever had like that. Never, nobody's ever done that but them.
yeah, that's so weird. So like say so those guys, you had them as amateurs and you go and see them have some, decent success as a pro. And then you have some other guys. Have you ever seen it where a guy just doesn't work with you, and then he's better off with somebody else or vice
Yeah,
versa. He's just not working with this other guy and he's better off with you. Like, what do you do in those situations? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I mean, I kind of experienced that a little bit right now. And, where I'm getting guys that come in and they're not used to working the way that I work, or they're, I don't know, kind of waiting for me to say, okay, well, I'm gonna train you. It's more like they come in and they're like, okay, they'll hit the bag and they'll kind of like expect you to go over there and, you know, and hand them a training schedule. Like I feel like if you have that relationship or you start with that type of relationship, you should kind of come together and have like a communication, not just expect, okay, well this guy's gonna train me and I'm gonna go fight. There has to be like a game planning, a scheduling, an understanding. But and there's a couple guys here that I didn't get that bond with, so they're working with somebody else. I'm like, okay, well maybe that's better for them, to work with somebody else rather than expect me to just you know come and throw my trainer's hat on and be like, okay, well I'm gonna train you now. I'd rather have a 50-50 door where like, oh, I need a trainer. Okay, well, you want me to train you? I'll train you like that. But there's guys out there that they have a bunch of fights already. But maybe it's they need something other than what I can give them. They need some, like, people come in there and say, "Oh, I need somebody to push me." Boxing is really a self-motivated sport. So if I need to be pushing you every day, when it comes time for push and shove, and you don't have that self motivation that to bring yourself out of a funk, then it's like beating a dead horse.
do you see where the personalities matter? Some people's personalities just don't click. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
in El Paso, like I'm loud. That's just me. I'm a big dude. You know what I mean? And some people just like, man, I don't mess with Terry because man, he just the volume just on high. You know what I'm saying? And then other, like my personality just wasn't for a lot of people. That I don't mean no harm by it. I'm not like a
yeah,
mean
yeah,
person. It's just I was in the Marine Corps, so like I learned my public speaking, you know, you know, a certain
yeah.
way. That's just how I talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's 100% truth to that because my brother is a little bit more aggressive than I am. So somebody comes in off the street and they've never you know had an understanding of what boxing is about, and if he starts yelling if you start yelling at him right away, they don't take good to that. They're like, oh, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you're doing. Maybe it might be better for me to have that person so I can you know try to get them to come to an understanding. Like he can sit there and hammer on the same detail, for hours and hours, but somebody else might not be able to have that patience with that person. It's like, okay, well, you're gonna do it right the first couple times to show you, or you get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell everybody I was just raised by 3-6 Mafia. That's what happened. You know what I mean? That's just I'm crunk all the time. And so you have kids of your own. Do you put them in this sport or are you waiting on your daughter to be like, hey, I want to box? Or you be like, you ain't boxing? Yeah.
Yeah. I thought my youngest was gonna take to it, but now she's in that girly stage. She's doing her nails and stuff like that. But let's see if she comes back to it and it gets to come back to the gym. And, if she wants to do it, I'll support her, and if not, you know, it is what it is. But
They
it's like,
they got a lot of girls boxing now, so that might
yeah,
be the push you need. Because I remember when I was little, like maybe one girl out of a fight a year. You're like, dang, man, there's a girl. You know what I mean? And then
yeah,
now it's like they got their own tournaments.
oh yeah.
Man, yeah, they
That
have
they
their
have a
own
lot more
division.
people to look up to nowadays. Clarissa Shields, Caleb Mayer, uh, was I, when Christy Martin and all them were fighting, I don't think it was as visual as it is. We didn't have social media at the time, so if you weren't a boxing fanatic or fan, you didn't know who those ladies were because they showed up on undercards of Mike Tyson, undercards, big undercards, and I mean the big fights and those undercards were where the ladies were at. So now that we have social media and people are posting a lot, you see a lot of more girls holding pads now. A lot more girls, getting in these tournaments and winning championships and stuff like that, gold medals. So I think there's just a lot more. It's more on display now that girls can do this sport and be successful at it.
Now, do you social media? It's new. It's a new phenomenon. It's been around like maybe 20 years. Well, from what I understand, maybe 20 years. How do you feel about boxers and social media? Some of them got the, I guess they can hype themselves up so much, and some of
Yeah,
them the hype is real. You know what I mean? Like they can really fight a little bit, but there's other ones that like get
yeah,
off social media. You clowning. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
how you
I
feel
think
about that?
it's I think catfishing is what the term what the term
Yeah.
is. You look one way and then in person is a different story, right? I think social media is a gift and a curse at the same time. Like, you know, not to get political or anything like that, but let's see how the world has changed because of now. Because when you first started, yeah, TV that was about all that you could see as far as people producing things. Now and then all that was restricted by you know rules and regulations. You couldn't curse, couldn't show nudity. And now then they have the rating system and all that stuff. Now everybody's got a camera. Everybody can produce a show. Everybody can say what is really anything they want. Just by the certain guidelines that these social media websites sites have. But basically, you can put it on whatever you want. So there's no restriction. You can put out there what you want to put out there, and people that follow you, anybody can generate a large following and have a belief system. You could probably start a religion if you wanted to.
I'm a I'm an Instagrammist. Yeah,
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 but yeah. I
yeah.
mean, but as far as boxing goes, it's a tool that can be used very well, or if it's a tool that can be used to mask people's shortcomings, I guess you could say.
All right. With all that said, I don't want to keep you. I see you was driving in the busy Jersey streets. I want you to be safe out on the road. But before I let you go, you want to let everybody know how to get a hold of you on social media.
Yeah, you can follow me at Eddie Road 1995 on Instagram, or you follow our gym at New Legends Boxing. We're on Twitter also, New Legends Boxing, and I'm still learning how to use all these social media websites. It's been years. I just
If I see you on TikTok, I'm gonna get mad. Like, man, what man, put your
I
shirt on,
do
quit
have a
dancing.
I just started a TikTok account, but I'm still learning how to use that.
All right, man. I'm gonna let you go. It was nice talking to you. I really appreciate you for spending your time with me, man.
For sure. Thank you.
All right, later.
Bye.